Hi, everyone. Welcome to Basic Binges here on Nom Talk Live. We are going to be talking about Moon Knight, which just premiered on Disney Plus. I'm Sabina Graves. I'm your weekly host for these reaction shows. I'm excited to bring along my friends who are joining me today, and we'll we still haven't figured out how to toss the crescent at this point, or actually Moon Knight, who is here. Introduce yourself, your identity, if you can.
I am the Fist of Khonshu. This is justice right here. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually British. My name is Mike Manalo. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I can't do a bad British accent nearly as bad as awesome, I should say, as Stephen Grant. Yeah, Mike Manalo here from the Nerds of Color, What to Watch, and That's at LA. How are you guys? Glad to thank you guys for having me again. After our controversial last episode of Boba Fett, I'm excited to talk about some Marvel action with Moon Knight, and looking forward to just enjoying the conversation with all of you guys again. As always, I'm going to take that off because that looks really bad on camera.
Oh no!
Tone and everything like that.
Yeah.
Well. Sorry for everyone who saw that. That was not intentional.
Unintentional.
Yes.
You should toss the crescent over to the next person.
All right, Mike, catch.
Okay, well,
that was really bad. That was a really bad throw on my part.
This was rehearsed.
Yeah.
We clearly practiced this, guys.
Yes.
So
yes.
So yeah, I'm Michael Lee, and you can find me at That's LLA, Nerds of Color, Geeks of Doom, and We Live Entertainment.
Amazing. It actually reminds me that I did not say anywhere you can find me. I'm the greatest at this, you guys. This is
you are the greatest.
Not my video.
Yeah.
Well, although actually,
always the greatest.
During our last show, I was embargoed on where I was going to be and stuff because things were happening. So I guess I could announce here that in case you haven't seen my socials, I am a writer at IO9, which is a really awesome place for nerdery and for just sassy commentary about pop culture and theme parks from yours truly. And I actually have the honor to be covering Moon Knight for them as well. So my interviews have gone up there and my reviews. So I'm actually very well informed professionally. I'm a professional. But this is my favorite part of the week, to just hang out with you guys and really just geek out about what we have seen. Let's start with Moon Knight, Mike.
Okay, sure.
Give us your
Moon Knight
reaction.
Mike, yes.
Moon Knight Mike. All right, that's my third personality, right? I love this show. I love how wonderfully weird it is. I love how, here's the funny thing. For me, growing up, especially, and even today, my favorite part of any superhero movie, and I think the favorite part of most kids, growing up, is the chance to get to see those superhero costumes just kind of come out, and you actually see that on screen. This is one of the few instances where we didn't need the superhero costume in that first episode to be as fascinated and compelled by what was happening on screen. The strength of this show lies in that relationship between Steven and Mark, and the sheer fact that I'm compelled without any sort of powers, without any sort of costume or anything like that, for this entire episode until that very cool sliver money shot at the end. It's a testament to how good the showrunners, Jeremy Slater, the guy behind the Umbrella Academy, and Mohammed Diab, just had the amazing job that they did putting this together, and especially Oscar Isaac, who just understood that vision and stands out in one of the best performances, I think, in the MCU to date. But yeah. What about you guys? What do you guys think?
Oh, well, I thought it was one of the one of my favorites. It's going to be one of my favorite shows now because it leads
Bruno
into this
has
whole.
opinions.
Bruno has something to say on this show.
He's like, I love the show.
I love Moon Knight. We talk about Bruno here in this house. In this house, we talk about Bruno. But it goes into this whole idea of Marvel playing into the whole genre bending thing. It's not just a superhero film or a superhero show with like one straightforward plot line. This kind of bends all kinds of genres and multiple ones at that, because we as we were seeing before, we got to see the first 4 episodes and it's just not one thing. There's a whole lot of layers to this. And as Mike was talking about Oscar Isaac, I was comparing it to his performances to anything in Us, because there's that duality. But rather than have 2 people in one room, he's playing against himself. Literally, he's just either looking at a reflection or there's that internal conflict that he has within himself. So there's another aspect of, kind of seeing 2 different performances from one actor. And yeah, I can't wait to see how this develops later on.
Definitely. I agree with y'all on everything, all of the above. And I thought it was really great how, this definitely feels a bit removed from the grand scheme of things with the MCU. The intro was definitely like very Memento-like meets like creepypasta, like 2 very like opposite sounding things. In how we are following Steven, who's like very confused for most of the episode as to what's going on and trying to like retrace all his steps that happened during when he blacks out. R.I.P. Nemo, the little goldfish who we get introduced to in the beginning because he's a little smaller fin. Because he wakes up and he's feeding his goldfish and then wakes up another day and his goldfish has 2 fins and he's like, that's not right. And then you also have him being stalked by Khonshu in the ways that I guess Khonshu really wants to just scare him off so he won't interfere with Mark and his business, Yeah. And I thought that moment in particular in the elevators really did remind me of like very indie grounded horror, but like, played so straight, because you have obviously the immense talent of Oscar Isaac and the people around him who, make the most sort of abstract and kind of like really big, unbelievable stuff very believable. I loved that sort of like lights out nod at like Khonshu appearing and moving with the lights and stuff. I was geeking. I loved those aspects of those moments.
Yeah, the horror aspect is played up so beautifully in this. I in one of the reviews I wrote recently, I kind of compared it to Muschietti's work on It recently. Just like this very, it's your cards are on the table and the horrific element is there, but the horror doesn't come from the fact that it's there and it's out in the open. It comes from the imagery of it all and the tension that's happening when Khonshu's approaching Steven in the elevator. It's very eerie, it's very creepy, and we've never seen that side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe before, which I really love them getting to play with that.
I can't add any more. That was beautifully said, honestly.
Yeah, no, talking about like the Machete's It and like sort of like the Blumhouse vibe of things. You have Ethan Hawke as well, who comes into this, and this is going to be technically the first time we see him be a villain, even though that's just by fate, because originally we were supposed to see him in the Black Phone play a villain, and then Moon Knight was supposed to release right afterwards. So as someone who's seen both the Black Phone and 4 episodes of Moon Knight as well, you kind of get a cool sense of like Ethan Hawke is having a villain era, and I'm very much just ready for it and here for it and excited for people to see him kind of flex those sort of muscles that we haven't quite seen him do in other things, because although we have seen him in horror, obviously, like in Sinister, as the person trying to figure out what's going on. In this, he is kind of very cool, calm, collected, and just to kind of bring it into the opening of the episode, very creepy. Yeah. Even though he's very cool, calm, collected, and confident, like it opens on him having like a moment of cleansing of some sort where he breaks some glass to put into his shoes and then just walks on it. That was, I think, a very quite a choice to open up the episode.
I think it's kind of ironic too, because if you think about the origins of Moon Knight as a character, he's a Jewish character, one of the rare Jewish characters that are really in comics. And there's always that custom where you break the glass, at a wedding or at an event or something like that. And instead, we're kind of inverting that here. Because you're breaking the glass, but then you're stepping on it with your actual feet and everything. So I got to wonder if there was something intentional there, just from a symbolic standpoint, from Muhammad or Jeremy's point of view when they did that really creepy, eerie scene. He's just like walking. He's not even limping or flinching or anything like that. And there's just something really off about that. But yeah, I don't know.
It's just like
Michael is like your reaction to it. Yeah.
But no, I was completely scared too. I was just like, the way we're introduced to villains. There's that whole, they have their monologues, or they have their connections to other characters. Here, as you were saying, this is completely feels disconnected so far, and we don't know anything about these characters. And the way we are introduced to him is like, why is he stepping on glass? This seems like sort of the craziest, most bizarre thing we've ever seen, and it seems almost like ritualistic, or like you were saying, a cleansing thing, or maybe he just wants to practice his pain threshold. So that's what I was thinking along the lines of.
Or he loves Die Hard a lot,
Yeah, he loves Die Hard. Yeah,
loves Die Hard. Who doesn't love Die Hard?
Yeah,
Right. Oh my gosh. One of the things I kind of wanted to point out and get your thoughts on, as we are all like, always hanging out at the end of Marvel screenings and like chatting about all the little different things. This show also opens up on the Marvel Studios logo, not with the Marvel fanfare, but with a song, and I think this is, the third one in the recent phase we're in where it started that way. Do y'all have any theories yet as to why that's a thing? Do you think it's signifying that we're in a different universe, or is it, do you think it's just a stylistic choice to kind of like introduce the signature of the creatives behind each one?
So I have to think it's a bit of both, honestly. And it was Bob Dylan's song, right? Grains of Sand, as I believe, or was it the other, the Man Without Love?
It was the Man Without Love.
Without Love.
Yeah.
So then we know it has to be a little bit of both, honestly, because Steven's character, as we see later on in this episode, he's pretty much a lonely, socially awkward guy. He has a hard time making any social connection with anybody. His boss gives him a hard time. He doesn't have a clue that he's going on a date, sort of thing.
I know, he's so cute and charming about it. I compared him to George McFly from Back to the Future.
Oh my gosh,
that's that vibe.
That's really
that's a really great comparison. But yeah. So, and then later on, we hear or we see other character. He has other connections that he does not know about. So it's clearly, for me at least, a creative choice, but it also foreshadows his other relationships.
Yeah, that's a really good take on it, Mike. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if we think about some of the openings for Marvel Studios properties where they don't use the fanfare, like Endgame's one, right?
Yeah.
I think definitely Infinity War is another one. It's really these like huge special events ones. I think Moon Knight's there. I'm trying to figure out which ones they are and see if there's like a connection, like if there's some sort of foreshadowing between all of the ones where they've intentionally decided not to use the fanfare. But other than Endgame and Infinity War, I'm coming up short on figuring out which other ones. Of course, Moon Knight, of course, have it, and if there's any sort of connection, or maybe I'm just reading too into it, for a connection myself. But yeah, I don't know. I love the way that it opens, and I do think, to your point, Sabina, it does give it further gives this show and this particular hero and this story a very different feel from the rest of the MCU. Now, I know it's not. I know it's all connected. Of course, it's part of the main story, but they definitely want us to kind of concentrate on this character, and I think isolating it, and not having that fanfare, kind of allows us to do that. Because to Mike's point, we're already starting to get to know Stephen Grant just from what the song kind of signifies and how lonely he is and everything. So yeah. Although ironically enough, he's not lonely because there's like 4 people rattling.
There's four people
Yes.
probably. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, taking it back to him being lonely and having this date, I do want to talk about the date he goes on. So an interesting thing about Stephen is that he is a vegan who apparently agreed to a date with I think one of the museum people to a steakhouse. And you're kind of left wondering what he's gonna eat at a steakhouse, and obviously by the time he actually gets there, it's after his first interactions with Arthur, Ethan Hawke's character. And it's kind of, it's funny to kind of think of like he kind of like goes for this steak and it wants like the center cut well done. I love the exploration of food in Marvel movies. I'm like, what are we trying to say here about these characters?
So if we're going to talk about food in Marvel, in this particular episode, we see Steven go at it against one of Harrow's followers as he's trying to escape, I guess, the villa or some sort of like, very Swedish kind of like city or town.
It's a very K24 cult sort of vibe. Like,
yeah, that was like very creepy.
Very,
this whole
toxic
sort of vibe.
like new age energy work sort of guru who works for Ahmet and is kind of draining bad energy literally from people and killing them.
Yeah.
And like allegedly,
what do souls taste like?
The interesting thing isn't Ahmet, and correct me if I'm wrong, hopefully anyone on the chat would be able to correct this, but I believe Ahmet is the eater of hearts, right?
Which goes back to
the center cut, with a well done center cut, right?
There was also this I was going to talk to you about.
The moment with the little girl.
With their little girl, yes.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
So it takes out all the organs except the heart. It's like, oh my gosh, that has to play a significant role. And then like I didn't even think about what you were saying now, Mike. So
I was just thinking about steak. That's all. That's everything.
And also, I'm beginning to wonder, that there's a whole sequence I think you're leading up to, Mike, where there's a specific kind of food. I wonder if that's where the souls go.
Wait, which one?
I think the souls go into a cupcake, maybe.
That is my theory.
That's okay. So souls would taste sweet then. Okay, I like that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to bite into this, by the way.
This is a silly joke.
Because this is a nom nom talk show, so I feel like I have to nom nom.
Hell yeah, we gotta nom it up. And if souls do taste like cupcakes, then I get it, Ahmet. We should all be.
Okay, yeah, definitely. After biting into this, we should definitely turn more people or take their souls in.
Are we part of the cult now?
Let me get my glass.
Okay, where are you, Arthur Harrow? I will join your cult.
Oh my gosh, it's kind of fun because like we're kind of like cutting back and forth between different parts of this, but it's such a fragmented show, obviously.
Yeah.
Definitely blacking out and appearing in one place and then waking up and appearing in another place. And there seems to be something going on. Like there's a couple things that stick out to me that I have like a lot of questions about, and obviously we're not going to go into any of the future episodes for this episode, but I just want to know who is he talking to on the phone that is his parent? Is like is that a person, or do we trust this? Like they seem to like be acting very casual about the situation.
Definitely, because there are these moments as you were alluding to, where he's, transitioning from Stephen to Mark, and it feels like there's a large gap, even though it feels very short when we're watching it, but large in real time, I guess, so to speak. And I would have questions about what's going on in between those moments. And then, as you were saying, is he talking to his actual mom now? Because who can we really trust as a storyteller? Because it seems like both of them are not really trustworthy, or they're not forthright with each other, at least. So
yeah,
because
that's one of the strongest things about the show, is this idea of the unreliable narrator. We're following everything through these characters' eyes, but they don't even see the whole picture, which is really creepy, but also really fascinating. The other thing is, going back to him talking on the phone with his mom, it's kind of interesting because I just started thinking about the horror elements of this show. And when you think about Psycho, and Norma Bates and how she's dead, and he's
I'm
treating
like,
her
not talking to anybody.
yeah, and it's a dissociative identity disorder issue too, right? Like, I have wonder if there's
that.
if there's some sort of like Easter egg there, where they're, one day we're going to find out that, whether it's Mark's body or Steven's body, although I have my suspicions, I think I know whose body it is, but maybe the mom's dead and he's been talking to, nothing this entire time, and it's just this Norman Bates kind of situation that he's kind of constructed in his head because he doesn't actually know the truth, but yeah, be a fun nod if that was the case.
Oh my gosh, Frank, you're just enjoying that cupcake. I mean, jump really quickly to a question from one of our viewers, Q. He wanted to know, let's see, Ethan Hawke is one of the most underrated actors ever. Agree, because it's so wild, because every time I write about him, I'm like, he's like this big powerhouse dramatic actor who just delivers on like the greatest like indie dramas there have been. He's
definitely
so many awesome leads throughout his entire career, like in great, just meaty stories, that like have dipped into some sort of genre, like the horror stuff that he's done recently with like Scott Derrickson and Cargill. But so the question here is, even though this is a series now, what if Moon Knight had its own movie, who would you have want to play the title character? I wonder if this means in regards to, like, we know like Moon Knight and Khonshu is a title that can be passed if you're familiar with like the comics and characters, or if this would have been in the past, like who could have played them. Well, I mean, let's see, some of the considerations Q threw out for fun, where names like Daniel Radcliffe and like Adam Brody. I mean, I guess kind of. I'm really happy with Oscar. I honestly kind of think that this series, while it is encompassing a narrative that is something that will require 6 episodes, I think that Oscar Isaac is Moon Knight and whatever other characters involved with Khonshu in this universe might fit into features someday in some capacity, without giving too much away, of course, but like, there's like, I actually got a chance to talk to Grant Curtis, the producer, and he said like, don't count him out on maybe popping up in other things.
Yeah, I think that was always the expectation, was that even though this is a TV show, it is a Kevin Feige produced TV show. And much like WandaVision, Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, it's going to feed into the rest of the MCU. So even though we're not getting a solo Moon Knight story, like film right now, it's very possible, A, that he's going to eventually get folded into this universe and be in a crossover movie. And B, if the popularity of the character dictates it, if people love him so much, and quite frankly, I don't see, especially after this debut episode, I don't see that, I don't see counting that out. That's probably going to end up happening. I think he's going to skyrocket in popularity because he's just awesome. I think it's very possible that we will just get to see feature films with Oscar Isaac. But but yeah, if you were thinking about fan casting, I know that everybody kind of fans did do artwork, fan art with Daniel Radcliffe and stuff in the past, but he's already going to be Wolverine, so no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I don't want to start any crazy rumors.
Yes, we've all seen it.
But yeah, Oscar I think is my ideal Moon Knight. And he's one of the most versatile actors out there. That's very unassuming. So I'm excited to see him continue his legacy, the legacy that he's creating right now, in future films, and maybe his own future feature, in the future. Yeah.
7 minutes exactly. Yes, exactly. Well, it's hard because we've seen him, and then again we've seen him in 4 episodes, but we're just going to talk about this one. It's hard to see anyone else right now as Moon Knight, because he just plays these 2 roles so brilliantly. And again, because we only got to see him as Mark for just those few seconds, but it's those few seconds that convinced me that he was, this is his role to take on. So yeah.
And it kind of definitely feels like, at least for characters like Mark/Steven, and even Wanda, and even like Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, these are the sort of characters that in past movies we only got like snippets of them in the big team up sort of like films. More so the past characters that I mentioned than Moon Knight, because obviously we're getting a full just introduction to him in this. But I like that we have these new characters that we're being given a lot of time to spend with them before they are propelled into like the big tentpole movies, which I don't think is like accidental. I think that's definitely on purpose, because one of the biggest sort of criticisms of some of the big movies and the Avengers films is that like, oh well, we don't know this person well enough to understand why they're here. Now we have a way into getting to know them and really just fleshing out their backstories and what they're about and why it would be meaningful for them to show up in a prospective battle. Like, who knows if they show up in Multiverse of Madness, and kind of like understand their headspace, hopefully a little more, when we do see like whether or not they're enemies, or if they'll team up and their agenda is sort of clashing. Like, we'll be in on it thanks to like a lot of these series for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is literally the first time since the Disney Plus era of Marvel Studios that a title character is being introduced to us in a series, right? Because WandaVision, we knew Wanda. Falcon Winter Soldier, we knew those guys. Loki, we knew that guy. And Hawkeye, of course, we already knew. I mean, the sub
even What If, yeah. So
exactly. So this is kind of ambitious, and it's kind of a toe dip for them, because it's a character that we don't know, that we haven't been introduced to, and they're not giving it to us in his own movie like they've done in the past, like Shang-Chi or even like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange. We're getting just a series. And to me, if you're going to do it with any character, that's the right call. Moon Knight is the right call, because you can't dive into the complexity of a character like this, and how crazy he the concept is, in a 2-hour film. You can't get that richness. You can't get that connection. I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Sabina, when you said that, we're spending time with this character and we need to get to know him, in order for us to root for him in future projects. So this is definitely the character to do this with. But it's really kind of the first time that Marvel Studios has actually ever done this with a solo character that we've never met before. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
so Mike. Mike, don't food coma on us from that cupcake.
No.
All those taste really delicious?
They also say, yeah. No, it's but
yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I would have to agree, because there's because of his mental health and everything. There's just so much that you need to explore within 50-minute episodes at least, and this is a great way to do it, rather than having it condensed and kind of cheapen the story, I guess, so to speak, because we wouldn't have gotten so much out of the character development or any of the other characters as well. had it been, they've been given sort of vignettes and smaller scenes that doesn't pack as much of an impact as these do. So yeah.
I definitely agree. Sorry, there's an airplane passing. Permit me to silence my
There it
mic.
goes. I heard it. What does the airplane have to say?
Oh my gosh. Moon Knight Airlines.
Moonlight. The crescent on the tail. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm just so excited. There are so many different things that we've been introduced to in this episode. And if you think of like different, because we like we talked about in the beginning, we don't really get a full glimpse or a full reveal of Moon Knight to like the end technically, but we do get a lot of action. Let's kind of like break down some of the action scenes that we do get to see. We have that the sort of like the fight that Steven is kind of there for but not there for when he has to give back the little scarab. Like, I thought that was really like well shot in like a very I want to say John Wick sort of like just murking them vibe. And just him coming to and just being bewildered by the situation is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was super brilliant. It's smart in a way because it subverts expectations where we see these grand action sequences in all of these MCU movies and TV shows. We're only seeing the end result. And it makes just as much of an impact if we were to see all of that play out. He's just covered in blood. He's got his hand in his fist like bloody, and he's like, "What the hell just happened?" And it's equally as rewarding as seeing a John Wick action scene without seeing the John Wick action scene. So I thought that was a genius choice. But
definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would have to. It goes back to what I was saying. Like, what happened in between these moments where he's, how did he get his blood? I actually want to see that fisticuffs between him and the rest of Harrow's group. So yeah.
And the car chase scene too. Just the fragments of that, where 1 second we're doing something, and then the next second we're driving backwards. And it's like, what the hell just happened? All set to "Wake Me Up Before You Go," which was genius.
I loved it. I was like, that is the perfect station to put on while you're driving a dangerous cupcake truck full of souls, as we have now.
Full of souls, cupcake.
The full cupcake is our Mephisto. We are going to track this now. Like, anytime someone has a cupcake, it's a soul.
It's a soul
cupcake.
Yeah.
And I totally agree that action sequence with the really tight turns. Oh my gosh, I was sweating. And you kind of see all these characters come at Mark, and he's like, "What am I doing?" I love how Khonshu's voice ringing in his head.
The backseat driver.
The backseat driver, like energy, like, "Oh, the idiot is back" was hilarious.
Look in front of you. It was like, oh my gosh, what?
Just the little old lady that he passes by, just
gives him the finger.
Oh my god!
I have to believe she's one of Harrow's followers who's like, you know what? Yeah, here. This is my contribution to trying to stop you.
Oh, poor Steven. Everyone's trying to stop him. He still doesn't know why. Yeah, such a good sequence.
And then the way he comes back to London, it's like, it just confuses him too. It's like, wait, wasn't I somewhere else just a few minutes ago?
A few days ago, because it's Sunday.
Yes. But in his mind, it's like, then he wakes up to the fish.
Oh, poor Steven.
Yeah.
Poor Nemo.
Poor Nemo. I bet he died because he fed him chocolate. That was probably the reason.
Pet Avengers, come on. We can't kill Nemo before he joins up with Pizza Dog and Goose.
And Alligator Loki.
Oh my gosh, we need this show.
Yes. Everyone needs a Pet Avengers show. Come on, Kevin Feige. I know you're watching this. I know you are.
He was the guy with the question.
He works in mysterious ways, honestly. I would not put it past him. I'm just like, he's always watching, making sure we don't catch on to his Mephistoing that is totally not there, but is it there?
Manifest this. Come on, guys. Let's go.
It's the goldfish. That's
It's gonna be
Mephisto,
like,
right?
they caught on to the soul cupcakes. Dang it. Oh man. There, speaking of the soul cupcakes, actually was reading some of the comics. I think that was like one of the trucks in the background had like a cupcake shape. While we don't really have too many Easter eggs in here, was there anything that y'all picked up that you were kind of like, oh, that's, from maybe a panel or two?
So I haven't read the comics. I don't know where I would pick it up, but I know you two have. So I'll just defer to you guys.
I can't talk about the ones that I picked up because they're not in this episode. And it's torturous to me, but I won't say
very
anything.
Challenging, but also, oh my gosh, the first world problem. We've seen 4 episodes. Woe is us. Although actually people should be happy because look at us. And we have seen 4 episodes. Things are changing for the better because we got access.
I'm trying to think of specific ones from this episode.
I think it was just the cupcake truck, honestly. If it was just a throwaway, that was enough.
That's a really good catch because I didn't even catch that one. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, with the cupcake truck and this, and I can't believe they actually did that. Oh wait, there is a big Easter egg. You guys remember him scrolling through the phone, right, and seeing who called him?
Other than Layla, right?
There's one person. There's one person named Duchamp, and if you're a fan of the Moon Knight comics, Duchamp is a very big character. He's Moon Knight's best friend, Frenchie, and that's him. So that's a big Easter egg. For those of you out there who aren't familiar with the Moon Knight comics, Frenchie is kind of his Alfred, or his maybe Nightwing, I guess, if you want to compare it to Batman, since everyone compares Moon Knight to Batman. But Frenchie's his pilot and his best friend and everything like that. So Duchamp is definitely a big Easter egg. And then the other thing that I'm wondering about is the statue, the human statue, right? That he keeps talking to.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a character. I'm wondering if he is who I think he is, but there's a character in the Moon Knight comics called Crowley, and he's kind of like an older gentleman with like longer hair, who's, I guess a lot of people kind of look at him like a homeless person or something like that. And I wonder if he's actually the statue, that Steven's talking to and giving prolanes to and tips and everything like that. So those were the 2 big ones that I sort of picked up on here.
I'm a Disney nerd and picked up on the Disney things like Nemo.
Gotta throw in that Nemo, yes.
Yep. And the horror ones, like the horror Easter eggs and stuff too. Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, oh my gosh. What haven't we touched on? So let's talk a bit about the museum showdown that Arthur Harrow shows up and is like, give me the thing that belongs to me, even though it does not. It belongs to whoever they took it from, obviously. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we have like that whole scene play out with like the 2 like jackal like dogs, I want to say, chasing Steven throughout. And I love like the care that Steven has in like not dropping anything, like the base and like
Yes, he clearly cares. He knows his stuff. Like he was talking about how there's 7 gods on the poster. He's like, no, there should be 9, not 7. It's like, and then his boss is like, I don't give a just take care of the stuff, put it all away, sort of thing. So yeah, he knows how to care for Egyptology stuff.
Such a good sequence too. It's there's a lot of comparisons. For example, May Kalamaui, who's going to be introduced later in this series, She compared the show, she called it Fight Club meets Indiana Jones, which of course I think it very much is.
Oh, for
But
sure.
more
Mhm.
accurately, especially in that Jackal sequence, I'd more accurately compare it to as Fight Club meets The Mummy. There's a lot of
Yes.
there's a lot of mumminess
There's
in
so much
it,
that was in my real, like the mummy,
which I love because
the brown people. Which is great.
and the Jackal scene really reminded me of in the second movie when they're in the Natural History Museum. It reminded me a lot of that sequence, those sequences, and I love that. I think that was such a good way to end the episode on that Jackal action scene. So yeah.
Yeah, and everything kind of like comes to a head with, obviously most of the episode, Khonshu is like, leave that idiot out of this. And like that idiot ends up, bringing the enemy to whatever sort of plots that Mark and Khonshu have, obviously. So they have to like let him in on it, and kind of we have that moment where they're in the bathroom and he's like, like Mark is in the mirror talking to him, which sidebar, during the press conference, we found out that Oscar Isaac's brother actually played opposite his brother for a lot of the scenes where he is talking to himself. It's actually Oscar Isaac's brother, and like Oscar Isaac said that his brother did an accent and everything. He did the costumes, and like so really cool. Actually had someone to play off of for those scenes, but also like such a big brother move to like get your little brother to like do this show for you, which is hilarious because for I think The Force Awakens, Oscar's brother, who is a journalist, he is one of us. He interviewed him for The Force Awakens, and it was a really like hilariously adorable interview where he got to ask questions only a brother could ask. If anyone needs
to look at this one,
go hunt that interview down because it is full of so many gems for sure. But yeah, it's really cool that he was brought in to play against himself.
I've never seen what his brother looks like. Does he look like a lot like Oscar, like pretty close, or
not like in a twins way, but just in a way where like he's probably someone, especially like during the times that this was shot in, especially like pandemic and stuff, you bring in somebody to like fill in and step in that you trust and stuff. And obviously if you saw any of the SNL monologue bits where Oscar Isaac showed the world all his home videos, like it's not the first time that his brother's probably been a part of being roped into his brother's like putting on a show. So now it's more just like putting on a show on Disney's dime.
It's a big upgrade from that ninja movie that they did, to The Avenger. I think it was what it was called.
Yeah, The Avenger.
Plastic swords and everything.
The Avengers.
Oh man, that was great. I'm glad he showed that. But that's cool. I didn't know that was his brother.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. And like I think it's effective because you have these exchanges like in the mirror and stuff that were maybe shot like practically and then like composited together. But yeah, like that whole sequence, I was just like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? What are we gonna see? Like, are we gonna see Mark's perspective or not? And it just ends there. It's like, wait till next week.
Give up the body, let me transform, let me do my stuff, and then does the job and beats down the Jackal and says, here I am, and then fades to black. That's it.
Just such an awesome sequence. We're just pounding the stuffing out of that thing, and it's just so good.
It would lightly reminded me of the Daredevil stuff. You're like, okay, it's going to go, and the camera turns and pans, and we see this guy's like, how did that happen? So,
Oh man, once again, they subvert expectations because you think that he's going to be the one that's tossed out of the room, but it's the jackal, and they pulls him back
Yeah.
in. And you're like, oh,
And see the jackal desperately like, no, I don't want to be here.
oh man, such a well done sequence. And they know how to keep you for the next episode. You know, they know how to end an episode so that you'll be hooked for the rest of the series. Um, Jeremy Slater's really good at that because he did that for Umbrella Academy too, which I also very much love.
Love Umbrella Academy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for that to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think it's really cool that, you know, I know there's like all the comparisons of like Moon Knight has like a similar vibe to the Batman, and I'm just like, I think it's a really cool thing to get like, you know, folks who grew up on these comics that are like, you know, from the late, like, well, I mean, Moon Knight goes back so long and stuff, but when he had his big predominant like comics, like specifically the ones that are kind of the basis of the show, like in the like early to late aughts and stuff like that, or even just like the grittiness of a lot of the action aesthetic of movies from the 90s. I kind of like to liken them back to movies like The Crow, which to me is like the blueprint to a lot of these like gothic emo boy superheroes. And seeing like these sort of like tight, like gritty city sort of tales that are like rooted in a lot of stuff that's going on that, you know, people could see the real world reflected in. You kind of get, you know, these glimpses of not everything is always like so super shiny and polished like Captain America's shield. Like things are, you know, gray and have like more nuance to them, which is, you know, I'm so excited for this show to like be 6 episodes long, you know, like, and obviously some of these stories, like even going to like Batman was 3-hour long movie, or more like an invitation to live in these worlds that we haven't seen before.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Because I definitely wanted to see more of the layers we're going a little bit in Batman, but there's so many layers to Batman. You see like, you know, all the top, you know, penthouse buildings, and then you hear about what's going on in the underground. And yeah, so definitely a lot of layers to these kind of shows where they have a lot of world building going on.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't that just make the MCU, just this universe in general, so much more interesting? Because you could have the Wakandas, and you can have the Asgards, and then you can have like just regular places like San Francisco where Ant-Man is, or just New York. But then you can also have these dark and grimy sort of locations like London, and you know, you buy it all. It doesn't feel tonally different from everything. I mean, like it kind of does to a degree, but it's still within the confines of what this universe is. So that's, what is that if not legitimately the definition of a universe, you know, where all of these different areas exist and all of them can coexist together, but we just haven't explored this area, or this area. So the world building on display, and even just creating this show and introducing this character, I love that. It's just giving us more layers to this universe that we already thought we've seen everything of, you know. And they're really good at that. Like, even look as recently as Shang-Chi and Ta Lo, you know, the fantastical, like mythical elements of Ta Lo, also another area that we haven't seen in the MCU. So they're just really expanding everything now, which I'm loving, you know.
So I had to wonder, what is Marvel's, like, not like an end game, but like what is this their conclusion to this sort of chapter that they're building right now, because it's so expansive, more so than what we've gotten in any of the phase 3, because we knew what was going on, and here we don't know what is the big connection, so to speak. I guess we'll figure that out later on.
Yeah, because like we've seen, you know, the sort of like splintering off of different like factions and like different powers coming to be in on like a global scale. And it'll be interesting to sort of note, that everything is a deliberate choice. Like, I really like that, yeah, this show takes place in London, but it's not erasing the fact that, like, the stuff that happened in like Daredevil and like Jessica Jones necessarily. Or I think, I'm not saying that it's not erasing, but like, I feel like there might be like, we've seen a lot of the New York stuff, and I know this was moved to like London for the project. And you're kind of like, wondering, we've seen some characters pop up in like Hawkeye from those Netflix shows. Like, do we think we'll be seeing people from the Netflix shows pop up in this possibly? I know we're like trying to like, we're veering into that like nerdy, but who's gonna show up sort of like element. I guess to close it off, like we can like go around and talk about like who we kind of see maybe coming in later on. For me, in this episode specifically, I was surprised that we didn't see anyone from the Eternals pop up because of the proximity of some of those characters. Whoever's still around, of course. I think Dane is still around somewhere.
Yeah, Dane's still around. Sprite, I don't know. I mean, she's been around telling stories, so who knows? And she's lived through all those eras, so who knows, like, if she could be a factor in this. And maybe Blade, I don't know, because they said Blade was at the end of the end credits for Eternals, but we'll see.
That was my guess too, Mike. I mean, if Dane Whitman is still in London, which we know he is, at least from the end of Eternals, and Blade visits him, what better character do you have, in the MCU to visit this grimy, sort of darker area, supernatural area too, than Blade himself? And if they're in London, then it's a hop, skip, and a jump away, or a double-decker bus away from Moon Knight, from Mark. So I think it'd be very fascinating if that ends up becoming our first appearance, like full appearance, not just vocal appearance, of Mahershala Ali in the end of this episode. I've heard rumors and speculation as well. Obviously, don't take this with a grain of salt. There's no weight to it or anything like that. But I heard that this won't be our only appearance of Moon Knight this year in the MCU. And there is a little special coming around in Halloween called Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Directed by Michael Giacchino. And anyone who's a huge Moon Knight fan knows that Moon Knight himself debuted in the pages of Werewolf by Night. And if we're getting into these supernatural horror aspects, it would make sense if Blade comes into the end of this series and goes, I got a job for you. There's a werewolf or something like that. And then boom, Werewolf by Night, So who knows? That was essentially that first appearance of Moon Knight, was Moon Knight on a job by a shadowy, crazy organization to hunt down the Werewolf by Night character. I believe his name is Jack Russell. Like, literally, I think his name is Jack Russell.
So on the nose.
Yes. Yeah. So I think I do think Moon Knight's going to get hired by somebody to hunt down Jack Russell. So it could be Blade. Other candidates could be Val, Valentina, the Contessa from, Widow and all of those movies, Falcon Winter Soldier and stuff. But yeah, I think that's a good possible place where this could lead. But I would love to see Kit Harington, Mahershala Ali, and Oscar Isaac join forces and do kind of a Midnight Suns sort of thing for the MCU. That'd be awesome. That'd be really rewarding.
Awesome. We'll be seeing what goes down in the next, upcoming weeks. And just to close out the show, let's go around and tell the people where they could find you on the internet. We can start with Michael Lee.
So it's not going to be that hard because my name's literally in, all my social media handles. It's I am Michael J. Lee. So you can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
What's your favorite Cupcake Soul flavor?
My favorite, well, the one I just had, which was a Kahlua Mocha Soul. So yeah.
Kahlua Mocha Soul.
Kahlua Mocha Soul.
Moon Knight Mike.
I kind of like that moniker. I hope that sticks. Maybe that's what I'll change my handles to.
Yeah, for like full season. Yeah.
Currently, I can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at TidyBowBoy182. If that's a little bit difficult to find, then definitely you guys can find me on the Nerds of Color. You can also find me on What to Watch, and that's at LA. All of which are on Twitter, Instagram, all of that as well. So come stalk me.
What's your favorite soul cupcake flavor?
Rainbow sprinkle. You know, because you get a little bit of soul in every bite, and it's so much more tasty that way. But yeah. What about you, Miss Graves?
Me? Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at Sabina has no R, on Instagram at Cool Places with Us. And I am also in the Nerds of Color. I'm also randomly at That's So LA. I'm here on Nom Talk. And I'm at my new home at IO9, breaking news during the week and talking about really nerdy things that I am way too knowledgeable about, which is great because I am a professional now. I'm just very excited to be out on the world and doing things and sounding a lot smarter than I sound right now. Because I think right now I'm just maybe like all over the place, you know? But it's an awesome time to be alive because now we have a franchise helmed by Oscar Isaac, and he is incredible, and we will be here weekly, and we actually didn't really thirst on him. Congrats, guys.
Oh my gosh, had to hold that in.
Yeah,
wait,
wait,
the whole time.
Let's extend this whole thing by 45 minutes just so we can thirst on him now. Yeah.
I mean, we did say he was very cute and charming as his like George McFly sort of like bumbling nerdy dude, and excited to see more of Mark next week, and hopefully, you know, some of our other recurring faces will jump in on some of that commentary. You can find us here on Nom Talk, on the socials as well, the same on Twitter and on Instagram. And my favorite soul cupcake flavor is gluten-free red velvet because it's red like blood.
Red velvet, can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for joining in, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.